What's up, everybody? Ready to go on another Saturday. Feeling kind of chill today, although the sketch I started on this morning is not chill, as you will see, as you will hear. Who's in the chat today? Who was first? Ben Colts was a little bit early. Igris, welcome. Who else is here? Acid Bat, Luminous Cloud, New Drexian, and Martin Crockett. Silver Knobs, HMDT, Kobanya 3000. I wanted to say, I don't know what I was just saying. Gotta be careful when I'm reading. Maybe I should put my glasses on. Sean Hodgson. Yes, let's get ready to rumble. Although not with a rumble bass, but yeah. You know what I mean. Jasper Svillins. Arsène Martinet, welcome back. Ordro-Rear. Ordro-Rear? That sounds like a character in Lord of the Rings. Is it? You were asking about feedback. Yeah, join our Discord. I realize sometimes the link doesn't work. The Discord invites do expire after a while, but we need to make sure that when we copy and paste the info in for the YouTube event that we update that URL. So I'll check. But yes, join the Discord, and then we'll announce when we do feedback sessions. And anybody can submit. Just following whatever instructions we may give in terms of style and so on. All right. Who else is in the house here? Simple Sam. Longtime regulars. A lot of regulars. I love it. I love to see you guys come back. It's great to hang out with you again, as always. Stereo Decor is back. Hector E. Zaraga, I believe, is back. Yes. Sea of Sine Wave. Nice that you're excited for the stream. Thank you. Abdul Halim. Did I get that right? Abdul Halim. Yeah. Hello. And that's it. And yes, Simple Sam, we're going to chill. You can chill on your couch, and then we'll, bang out some beats. Let's go. Welcome, everybody. It's Techno Saturdays again. I'm John Selway here at the 343 studio in front of the green screen with my trippy visuals kaleidoscoping behind me. And yeah, 343 TV is a thing that we do here at 343 Labs. We are a music production school here in New York City and in Berlin and online. Yes, as I say every time. I'm an instructor for 343. If you didn't know already, I do synthesis and sound design and general kind of music production, usually in Ableton Live. Synthesis and sound design, not just in Ableton Live, right? We look at different plugins and things like that. We do private lessons here. We've got all sorts of different classes that you can check out in terms of just getting started to, making your first track, getting a little bit more advanced, learning more about songwriting and arranging, mixing and mastering, lots of things that we do here. And if you want to know more about that, you've got some links below. I was just talking about the Discord link, which I need to check and make sure it's up to date so it works. But yeah, anything you want to find out about upcoming courses, well, everything we do here. We've got a couple of websites. There's one for the US site and location, and there's one for the Berlin location, and of course all our online courses and everything. So check us out there. Have you subscribed? I don't ask that very often, but yeah, subscribe here if you haven't already. And do the whole thing with the notifications. What is it? The bell? Whatever it is. Yeah. And anytime we have like any special events coming up like that, you'll get notified whenever there's a live stream. So yeah, that's what you should do. And as mentioned earlier, join our Discord, because every now and then we do feedback sessions. You guys can submit your techno or electro or maybe occasionally related genres. We haven't done that yet, but generally it's been techno or electro. And I invite guests to come and join me. We listen to your music. We give you, we butter you up a little bit with some nice comments, and then we let you have it in a nice way with some constructive feedback, constructive criticism to help you guys, work and improve. And anyway, I've been always really happy with, the majority of the tracks that get submitted. People are coming up with some cool stuff, right? There's some really good producers out there. So thanks to everybody who participates with that. We just did one recently with Ambivalent. And I'm very pleased that I have finally got a really amazing guest for the next feedback session, the next electro feedback session. And this is a guy that if you're into electro, you should know, if you don't already, who he is. And he's been on the show a couple of times before. But yeah, Carl Finlow right here is going to join me to give you guys some feedback on your electro productions. That is in a month from today, March 25th. So yeah, I just was talking to him recently, and we're really glad to have him back on the show. He's a really good guy, incredibly knowledgeable about all sorts of things, not just electro. And I'm really, really happy that he'll be back. So yeah, look forward to that. Put that on your calendar. Don't miss out. And those of you who are like, if you want to get Carl Finlow listening to your music, giving you some feedback, you've got, about a month to get ready. So don't post them yet. There's a Selway feedback channel on our Discord. Wait until I announce, right? Because then if they're all spread out over a month, it's going to be hard to find them all. So, if you're watching now and you're psyched and you want to do it, work on your track, get it ready. But we'll announce again when it's time to submit, so we have everything kind of together in a timeline, and I don't miss anybody. All right, so that's that. We're not doing electro today, though, right? This is coming up in the future. Today, I wanted to do something kind of a little bit more straightforward. Techno, banging but not too hard. And I'm mostly working with samples. I had a student ask me recently in a mentorship session for our Studio 343 studio program. He's a techno producer, and he was asking me about a particular track I did where how did you do those drums, these kind of tough, rolling, chopped up loops of drums. And I've done this kind of thing on the stream before, honestly, but it just reminded me that it's a fun way to work. And I've been wanting to kind of do some stuff like this. So what I did was I explained to him sort of in the session, like generally how we do it, or how I did it back then. And it was an older track in the 90s. And today I just kind of put my money where my mouth was and tried to do what I told him and find an old drum loop that isn't techno-y but has a certain kind of character to it and get it kind of chopping up. So yeah, that's what's happening today. Let's listen to the drum loop that I chose to get started with. I was just browsing around. I don't keep a lot of samples on my hard drive, honestly. Like, since I'm kind of a synthy producer nowadays. I like use synths and effects, and I try to design my own sounds, and then occasionally I'll drop a sample in here every now and then. But I'm not like mostly using samples. I have, and I enjoy it. And the other part of this isn't, besides just how I'm chopping up these drums, is just sticking within the limitations. This is another concept that I pretty much use often, and I have brought up on the stream before, but like limiting your choices and just working within a couple of, like only use a couple of plugins or only use certain types of sounds. Like just it can be fun and fast also to just kind of close things in and focus on a couple of techniques and a couple of types of sounds, and then just stick with that and see what you can do. So that's the other idea. I'm like pretty much using whatever samples I stumble across on my drive, and maybe a preset or two, if I need something synthy or whatever. So, all right, back to the drum beat. Going through, I have this is an old set of samples that I found somewhere. At least, well, it says 2010 on one of them, so it's at least that old. This classic breaks folder, and there's a bunch of copyright infringement in this folder. These are all famous break beats from funk and soul and rock and disco and whatever, right? All sorts of different beats that have been sampled a million times. And I actually picked one from Led Zeppelin. Play. And I don't even know what song this is from. All right, so I don't want to play the algorithm's not really going to catch that, I guess, but that'd be amazing if we get a copyright thing for that. We can always edit it out. But anyway, I thought it was interesting, right? It's got this kind of raw, dirty, it's got a room kind of sound to it. It's resonant. It's got a slapback echo on it that's creating an eighth note kind of, echo on the rhythm. And it just jumped out as I was going through these breakbeats. Oh, okay, that could sound cool. Also, there's some panning in it. It's kind of going left and right a little bit. So I could imagine if I slice these up and move them around, that we're going to hear some cool panning. All right, so that's sort of the first thing I did was just get started with this drum loop. And back in the 90s, I didn't have Ableton Live to automatic or some kind of fancy plugin to automatically slice it quickly, right? All of the samples are coming off of a hardware sampler for the most part. Like I had my S3000 XL, and before that I had an S950. But we used to use Propeller Head's Recycle to chop up loops, and you'd take the sample and transfer it from your hardware over to your computer. You would load it up in Recycle, and then it would find all the transients. It would do what Live does now, where it would identify the transients, but it didn't do warping and time stretching. It would just chop it into little pieces. So it would do all this. It would just it does what this does when you put a loop into Simpler. Into slice mode, it identifies all the transients. That's what it did, right? But it took a lot longer. And then you would transfer it back to your hardware sampler, and then it would map out each slice on a different key, like a drum kit. So, and another thing I would do, this is a little bit later, as I used to use a program called SoundForge Acid. And later, Sony bought them, so it was Sony Acid, and it's kind of like working with loops on the timeline, and do real-time time stretching similar to what Ableton Live does. And I would take loops and retime them and process them, and then put those in Recycle and chop them up and then put them back on. So with the slicing in Simpler and the warp modes, that's kind of like both of those things at once. So that's what happened. It's taking that and dropping it in the Simpler, and then putting it in slice mode. All right. And it sounds like, this beat it's very tightly timed. It's fun. You can see it looks like really even 16 notes slices, right? So this should slice up really, really well. And then it's literally just putting in, the first note is C1. And, there's not that much variation between the slices. Yeah, it sounds like it's just repeating kind of a couple of beats. So you don't need to use the whole thing. And then it's just putting in, you've also seen me do this before. I don't even think too hard about what's my rhythm going to be. I just throw in a bunch of notes. And all right, let's see what that sounds like. Yeah, so that's like reshuffling the original sounds, not really transposing them or filtering them or making them sound different. And then, you can play around with the transposition of each note. Just whenever you like something. I feel like I'm losing where the downbeat is. I could put on metronome real quick. Not bad. I feel like I want these to be switched around. Like the first half and the second half are Yeah, there we go. That makes more sense with it for me for this pattern with the downbeats. All right, so that's how I started out, just coming up with that, and then of course this reverse and invert MIDI notes is really handy for this situation. Some cool variations just like that. All right. Cool. So what next? Well, you know, it needs to sound beefier and more full and more powerful. And, you know, generally, you know, there's different ways to do that. But probably, you know, tuning it, these sound good as they are, and these would be good as a layer with some lower frequency drums, but I could also transpose them, play them lower. And then also there's the warping and the changing the tone of it, right? So, play you. Turn my volume up a little bit. I want to feel this. There's more. It sounds muffled now, but there's more low frequency in it. I could try, and then usually people sometimes you'll hear, oh, you know, don't use Complex or Complex Pro for your beats because it'll mess up the transients. I mean, that's not a rule, but if I use Complex Pro, you know, what it's doing is it's keeping the higher frequencies, the higher harmonics, overtones closer to where they were before I pitched it down, so it sounds brighter. So that actually sounds kind of cool. It does make it a little less snappy. The transients are a little faded in, kind of, but I don't care. I like how it sounds. I can tighten it up by increasing the fade there. It's less sustained now. And I can also kind of tighten these up a little bit with the modulating the envelope, using an envelope to modulate the filter frequency. Let's see. So right, it can be darker, but leave some high frequency at the beginning. I don't want to go too far dark. I like that. And then I can start saturating it, thickening it up, using the drive in. It's getting kind of loud, huh? Let's turn this down just a little bit so you can hear me speak over all this noise. All right. Where were we? It sounds smoother now because it's being clipped and saturated. I mean, we're in there now. It sounds pretty good. Can play around with this stuff too. Just makes little tonal changes. That's without the Complex Pro. That's just transposing the audio down. That sounds good too. Sounds almost more natural that way. Yeah, I feel like repitch, Complex Pro, those are the ones that sound the coolest. Okay, so that was the process. This is what I came up with earlier. Oh, whoa. A little brighter, sharper, actually, but similar. And I made a couple of different variations. As you saw, I was using the inverse and the reverse, and just also moving notes around a little bit. Right, so yeah, I'm seeing some comments here. I like this alien wooden percussive instrument. That's what Orgerir, our Middle-earth resident, is. I'm sorry. Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of going for that. I want it to sound like acoustic and organic and synthy and powerful, right? And that's what's happening. And you know what makes it sound synthy really is like the filter, honestly. That's what's doing it. You could also play around with oh right. That's the other part of it I forgot. Is pitch modulation. You know, I'm sure I mentioned this before, but like synthesizing percussion, you know, kick drums, snare drums, toms, congas, things like that, very often incorporates pitch modulation to get that kind of snappy transient. So you can take a drum that's not very snappy and make it snappy by putting a very quick decay on the pitch modulation. It's tricky with samples because if you speed up the frequency of the sample, it plays it faster, so it gets shorter. So sometimes you might want to do a pitch modulation and you'll end up like, where'd the bass go, or where'd the low frequencies go, or why did it get so short? And it's because of that. Like, so I have to look how short my time is on that envelope. It's like 2 milliseconds, and it's just doing a little tiny bit, like a little clicky thing at the beginning. If I make that longer, actually, you know what? You know, it's not because I have the stretching on, I'm avoiding that problem. Listen to what it sounds like without the warping. Right? See how much shorter it is now? That also might be because of the envelope, but whatever. You get my point. That sounds better. That sounds almost, I don't know, it reminds me of that Quoth. Do you remember? Aphex Twin did that track called Quoth that's just like, sounds like it's banging on cans and big metal things. It sounds a little cleaner and tighter with that real fast pitch modulation at the beginning. All right. So that's what we're doing. Simple Sam says, add an 808 broken beat and a stabby bass. Yeah, I could. Oh, I like this also. For some reason, Jean-Paul Bondi says, for some reason, this pattern reminds me of Front 242. Well, yeah, it's a little industrial too, right? If you know, certain types of EBM and industrial dance music have that, like, metallic percussion, right? So definitely works for this too. Cool. Oh yeah, right. It's polygon window Quoth, right? But yeah, that's also that's Aphex, right? Cool. Yo, Raw Cuts, no problem. You're late. You're here. As long as you're here, that's fine. So let's move on. Well, those actually, I just accidentally layered two versions of the same sample doing different rhythms together. That actually sounds really good. Okay, happy accident. I'm gonna try and tune. I want to try to tune them further. All right, this one. Okay, I just thought I'd point this out because it's the warping is in where did it go? Oh yeah, repitch. You can't tune the sample, right? I was thinking I wanted it to be lower. How do I do that? All right, well let's put this back. I'm actually turn the warping off for a second. That sounds good too. More bassy now. If I want a little less bright, I can bring the Oh yeah, it is a lot less bright now because it's tuned down a lot. That's a nice underlayer. All right, so now I wanted to add a kick, but I decided to avoid a 909, 808 typical kind of sound and try to get an acoustic kick drum to sound right. So I have the dirt and the grit and the resonance and the weirdness of some random acoustic kick drum sample. And there's a bunch of those in this vinyl drum vault collection. There's a bunch of vinyl drums that are, sampled from individual stuff like this. Like you can hear the vinyl noise and the hi-hats and the whatever, all that stuff. I want to use that. So where's the one that I actually used? Show in browser. There it is, Kick 9. Now it doesn't sound particularly techno already. Actually, I don't even know if I just realized you may not be hearing those. Now do you hear that? There you go. Okay, so that's the one that I chose. And let's hear what it sounds like without any modification. Right, it's tuned down. Whoa, that's a lot of pitch modulation. Let's turn that off. All right, remember, this was -4. So this is what it sounds like just all by itself. Oh, there we go. Not very exciting. But then we have loud. Is that too loud? Can you hear me? And then we have, again, the same trick with the pitch modulation. Now it has like the punchy modern transient. It got shorter, it got less bassy, but I don't care. I want this. I could maybe layer this with a boomier kick later, but for right now, I kind of like how it is. Just real punchy. Let's fatten this up a little bit. I'm gonna do some upwards compression, some expansion. Trying to bring up. Oh, that's a little bit too much. But you get what I honestly, this is the opposite of compression. I have it, the multiband dynamic, so it's bringing frequencies 98 hertz and below louder when the signal crosses the threshold. So that's expansion. It's a little bit much, as you can see. Probably need to not overdo that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it doesn't sound better, right? So that trick didn't work. We'll just leave it like it is for now. Let's hear how it sounds with the whole mix. And I had it without this before. Cool. Am I missing anything? Did I forget to turn anything off or on? It's dirty, right? It's got that little crackle in it. All right. I forgot to tune it back to -4. Yes, I did miss something. That was the thing. It was the same trick with the drums before. It was like, they sound good, but I want them to be thicker. So yeah, pitch it down. You are absolutely right. It's definitely going to be better. A little woofy, but we'll work it out. Okay. Better. Ah! What just happened? If you put the sustain below the note you're playing, it does a little bend. You gotta be careful with that though. Okay. So we got it. We got the start of a track now. I'm grooving. It's a start. Let's throw in that new loop that I made. Let's hear how it just sounds by itself. Not loving it. Let's leave it out. So I do want some more sub in there, right? And I mentioned maybe eventually layering a different kick with this one, but I kind of also like how it's kind of woody and punchy and not too deep, right? You don't always have to be boom, boom, boom all the time. Your low bass can come from something else. And then the drums also have some low frequencies in them. I mean, they're they're not very loud, but they're there. It's providing, it sounds solid. Okay. Let's take a pause for a second. Let's see what you guys are up to in the chat. We're just a little bit past halfway. Actually, no, I started after 1. So yeah, we're right about halfway in the stream today on Selway Techno Saturday. Oh, where is it? There it is. 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs Music Production School. I'm here in New York City at our studio, and where our classrooms are here. There's a class going on right now in the other room. There has been a lot more things going on lately. We've been having weekly events. We just had we've been doing these performance showcases, which are kind of like open mic, where you can come in and play a song or whatever you want to do. And then we've got Ableton Live user groups and master classes and workshops happening all the time. A lot of times free, right? So if you're in the area, if you're here in New York City and you want to stop by and check us out, these things are happening almost weekly, usually Thursdays, occasionally other nights. And then we also have, if you're in Berlin, we have open houses and workshops and user groups and things like that going on all the time. So in addition to, signing up and paying for one of our courses, you can be a part of our community in other ways, right? The free events we have, the Discord server you can join and talk to other people about music, get feedback. We were talking about the feedback sessions we do here on the stream sometimes. And in case you didn't see it earlier, if you've joining us a little bit later, I am really psyched to announce that Carl Finlow will be back joining me to do the next electro feedback session here on Saturday, March 25th, 2023, just in case you're watching this in the future. Yeah, you missed it. So yeah, we do all sorts of stuff. And, as I always say, follow us here, subscribe, check out our websites. The links are down below. And what are you guys talking about now? What are you guys talking about in the chat? The kick sounds like it's flamming, Reefer Bass says. Well, okay. As I mentioned last week, sometimes when I have my speakers on, you'll hear a slight little slap back. I don't know why. It used to be perfectly phase aligned. Now there's a delay. I don't know if there's a problem with the audio interface or something. I'll troubleshoot that, but that could be what you're hearing. But yeah, I don't know. What does the kick drum sound like by itself? All right, I'm going to mute my speakers for a second, and you tell me, do you still hear doubling or flamming? Is it better while my speakers are off? Now, do you hear it again? I'm just, so you guys tell me if that's what the problem is, or if it just sounds like it's flamming all by itself. I'll turn it down a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Okay. So yes, thank you. And okay, yeah, it's the mic feed. I really love not having to wear headphones, so I apologize for that. In the past, it hasn't been a problem, but again, I'll get it fixed. I'll work it out. Cool. Let's see. What else are you guys talking about? Who else is new here back at the chat? Akshay, what's up? Big up. Thank you very much. Nice to have you here. Gabriel Valea, Carl Finlow. Wow. Yes, I agree. Carl Finlow. Wow. I mean, aside from being just a really nice guy, and fun to hang out with and talk to and to nerd out about music production with. I've been a fan of his music for forever, since the 90s, since forever. And he is one of the most prolific people that I know personally. All right, I mean, I guess there are producers that make lots and lots of tracks, but yeah, his level of output and consistent quality is just outrageous. I've never been that kind of a producer. I just kind of work when I feel like it sometimes. He just cranks them out, and almost every one of them like knocks it out of the park. Like, he's really good at that, his style of what he does. So yeah. Anyway, yes, Carl Finlow. Wow. Sea of Sine Wave is suggesting maybe some drum bus would do the trick to add some boom. Absolutely. Doing a little subharmonic synthesis, adding a deep fundamental to that kick. I do that. Let's try it. Since you mentioned it, let's see what happens. I mean, the frequencies are there. Like, there's a fundamental. It's kind of hard to see. It's a little too low, actually. It's like 40 hertz ish. And I'm sure you all know the trick where you high pass and then bump it up. But yeah, it could be that it's too low. But then, like, the transients and the mids and the highs, I like them better when they're tuned down low. I like that. So then I guess the thing would be to do what you're suggesting. And, I could layer an 808 kick underneath it and try to fix the phase so it doesn't cancel. But then also what you're saying about using a drum bus. Let's try it. Okay, I don't want it to be damper. I'm going to put it's a low pass filter. I'm going to bring that back up to 20 hertz. And let's see what happens if we bring in 50 hertz on this kick. Maybe. Now I'm tuning it closer to what the actual fundamental is. But there's a little snap in there. That would be better, like doing it in a subtle way rather than having the decay be full and going boom, 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 like a shorter one. So it's just a thump right underneath the transient. That helps. And also there's some saturation. Actually, let's take the drive down so it's less of a difference. Yeah. It's added that hum underneath it. And all right, I'm not, this I might have to adjust for the whole mix and everything, but that is a good suggestion. It's a very, very low transient, but I mean the sub kind of fundamental, 40 hertz. Actually, not too crazy. It's not like 30 or 20 would be too low, probably, for that kick drum. I like that. Let's keep it. What I did earlier, though, now that I'm going to take that off, was I just found, I'm like, I want a sub. So I went through some presets and found this one, which is just some clean sub bass with it, and it's got a wide stereo effect on it, which normally you want to be careful with, but I don't know, I just thought it sounded good earlier, so just like kind of a droning, filling in the bass that was missing from that kick drum. Let's see if it works with the extra bass using drum bus. Heavier. Actually, it's not bad. Play around with this. Let's get back to the main view. I like the sound of the tambourine. There's a little tambourine in the background. I kind of like it. And it sounds like shot. There's something about that interaction of those high frequencies. It's like heavy and smooth at the same time. And then I already had a couple of other extra percussion ideas ready to go. I threw in a hi-hat initially. It's a 909 sample. It's actually like processed a little bit. I normally wouldn't do this, but I added a lot of resonance in the filter. I mean, this is what it sounds clean. It's like a shiny processed 909 sample, right? It's a little crunchy, a little bright and shiny on the tops. But then, I don't know why, that just jumped out at me when I was playing with the filter. I thought it's kind of an interesting idea to bring out tones from noise using, like you can just use an EQ to like exaggerate a resonance on purpose. That's not, you could put an EQ8 on there and do the same thing. I'm using the resonance for the high pass filter to add a note that's in tune with other sounds. I just liked how it sounded. Now you can see it right there. It's like adding that that fundamental right there. A little more presence on that hi-hat. It's rolling, I love it. And I have a little variation with the hi-hat. A little less busy. Let's check out these other variations and see, is this the right one? Let's see what happens if I switch the main rhythm a little bit. It's okay. Probably would sound better if it was filtered down and tighter. Yeah. What do you got? That's good. Let's see how that one sounds like when it's brighter. Got more of the noisy stuff. Not bad. You could kind of hear there's like a little melody in the drums. So you could totally like take that and play that melody with a synth, and that could be like your lead, and it matches the drums. And now that I said that, I probably should do it. What do you think? I mean, I already had a musical direction for this track that I was kind of thinking of. Let's put a pin in that. All right, I'm going to remind myself. I'm going to and I do this all the time when I'm working. If I have an idea, that would be cool, but I also think it might derail my progress. I'll just say, and I'll make a note of it. I mean, there's like Macs for Live devices where you can like put notes and stuff and write yourself things that save with the project. But I just put in an empty track and write it in the title or in the name of the clip or something. I'll be like, lead follows drum. Yeah, that'll remind me. And then I have a MIDI track I can put the synth on. All right. So what is this one? I've already forgotten. I think this is just a little extra layer of percussion. Yeah, I was like, just something that adds a little subtle thing. Kind of was, I put that sound in to fit into this groove though. Bop, bop, really subtle. I got 2 sections already. Well, and then bringing the hi-hat and other stuff in and out. Just bringing the kick drum in and out is already arranging. I'm going to try this one again. I don't know. I like that better now. It's like a little extra push in the low mids. Okay. So I started thinking about, all right, this is the main groove now. I'm dancing to it in my chair. What kind of other elements do I want? So I started going through the samples again, right? Again, my whole point was let's limit myself today to just working with certain types of sounds and certain instruments. So I'm like, okay, samples and acoustic noises and trying to go for this kind of dirty rolling, but not too banging, right? It's not crazy hard. It's not industrial bang, 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 right? Is it hard groove what I'm doing today? Does it count? Anyway, so there's a lot of, and that's another thing, that kind of techno has a lot of samples and lots of little bits and pieces from drum loops and break beats and clips of little noises and things. Like I feel like hard groove wants, not always, but often wants these kinds of sample textures that you get from these types of sounds. So I was thinking like maybe like some kind of stab or horn blast or something. And I found this guy, which just Just perfect right away. And it sounds like, yeah, it's a sample from a horn section. And it has even, just like the kick drum and the acoustic drum samples, it has a little noise. It's not perfect. It has that texture, right? So let's hear how that sounds. And this is just a one shot now, it's not looping. I probably should have just put it in a simpler rather than just playing the clip. Who mentioned follow actions earlier before the show started? Wait, let me scroll back up. Someone said follow actions. I'm going to use one on this. I can't find it. Chime in if you said something about follow actions. Oh, Luminous Cloud. Yes. All right. So I use this sometimes when I have a sample and I want it to repeat, but I don't want to have a whole long clip that's like 32 bars long with like one note in it. So yeah, let's put a follow action. Let's say follow actions are on. And I'm going to do play again. And I'm going to play again unlinked, right? And I'm going to make that 8 bars. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, you can see there's that little stripes on the play head, the play button now on the clip. And it's just going to keep flashing. And then I'm going to play again after 8 bars. Yep, right? And then, you know, I can, if I record this into my arrangement, instead of having like a MIDI clip with 8 bars long with one little note in it, it's just going to throw in that audio sample every 8 bars. So, and this is also something, if you were doing like a live set, you could have one shots and things that are not loops repeating when you want them to repeat. Let's put a reverb on that. Love that. All right, so now we're adding some atmosphere finally. I haven't, other than saturation and filtering, I haven't added any other effects to anything yet. Just going with what the sounds sound like, plus distortion, basically. What's this sound? It's like it's like a cool little organ lick from a funk tune or something, and it's got like, it's dirty, it's got drums in it. I mean, that's why I love using these kinds of, it's more like hip hop kind of, right? Or like, you know, break beats, drum and bass. You're taking little bits and pieces of music, chopping it up, right? And so I'm just doing it with the techno vibe, right? So this was just adding a little extra chord stab in there, and I tuned it to kind of fit with the horn stab. Maybe that's happening too often. Let's make that, instead of 8 bars, let's make it 16. I think I have to re-trigger it again to do it. Or I want it to be here. Good. And then, all right, going along with this mode, it's starting to have a harmonic element to it right now. It's still percussive. I was thinking, what other, should I have like a pad or something smooth to kind of balance this out? And I was just going through some more samples. Let's see where we can find this one in the browser. Yeah, going through these kind of long one-shot ambient sort of sounds. And I thought, this sounds cool. I mean, it says sitar distorted reverb, so it's a sitar running through a bunch of reverb with distortion on it. And you know, I could try to make something like this. And then the first way I tried it was just, what happens if I put this on top, right? What happens if we just lay this sample as it is? It's nice. Let's make it darker, sad a little bit, which could be nice for a break, but it wasn't quite the vibe I wanted. All right, now the sample's going into some other key or something. Just the beginning of that sample is really cool. So instead, what I decided to do is stick with the concept of taking the sample and slicing it up and using little pieces. So this, you know, slicing isn't just for drums, right? I took this pad and put it into the simpler, and normally the default is transient, but a pad like this doesn't really have very many, right? You can see it made these big, huge pieces, but instead of transient, I'm choosing beat, and I chose 16th notes, right? So now I've got little 16th note pieces of this sample, and I can just a fast way of and I could even like play different notes, right, and make a pattern out of it. But I just picked a note and played a pattern that is kind of doing, in the pocket call and response with the other chord stab. So they're talking to each other. Really simple. I didn't even do anything else to it. So I just turned a pad into a percussion sound, pretty much. And then, right, if I wanted it to be a little more evolving and moving, I thought, oh, okay, I can randomly, the simple way is play different notes here. Let's solo that. Right, and that's the same idea of making a new drum rhythm by changing the order of the slices with the drums, right? So let's see if that works. You can barely notice it. It's really subtle. I kind of like it better straight, actually. Undo, undo, undo. That maintains the energy better. Just simple one-note thing. But then, if, let's say you do want to do some randomly evolving thing, I can just use the MIDI random to change which note it's playing every time. That's okay too. I kind of, rather than having it being the same every time, I kind of like it better when it's just sort of floating a little bit. See what this sounds like with some reverb on it. So simple. Okay, it got a little mellower now sounding with the musical element, so I want to be careful with that. Let me just remind myself, what does this sound like without all the atmospheric stuff? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty banging. And then this one, that doesn't take the energy away. Let's throw that in the arrangement sometimes. I definitely need some more percussion at some points. Then we have the little organ stab, which you can barely tell is an organ. I think it's not even really playing the whole sound. Okay. Back to simple. I don't want the randomizing. All right. Now, it's just after 2 o'clock. Gotta wind things down. I don't know why I did this earlier. Let's see if it works. Yeah, I was like, let's incorporate polyrhythm. Why not? So that's something that's going to happen. I know I just totally opened up a whole other can of worms there. Is playing around with different time signatures. And I like that change that just happened. I'm already arranging. I should be recording this. Oh, and it put the pad in by accident. Nice. I think I'm ready to start arranging this now. Excellent. Cool. I think that's going to be it for today, everybody. Let's bring it back in. I'll check in with the chat a little bit before we say goodbye today. Chimp, that's a new one. Welcome, Chimp. You can automate that random device right now, and when arranging the track, choose precisely when to have it on and off. Absolutely. Good suggestion. I definitely do stuff like that. That's a good one. And DJ Feo is asking, how do you know you need more percussion? Well, I feel like I want some other... I mean, I could just do it with only this. I could, but I feel like I want to have some other elements to play around with in the arrangement, both for increasing the energy level at certain points, like ride cymbals, other high frequency sounds, a shaker. I don't know. There's so much high frequency in the loops already that adding a shaker might be overkill. But other sounds that happen that are not looping, like, you know, I have the chord stabs and the little samples that are doing the little musical things, but other sounds that are not repeating all the time for transitions or like background sounds or whatever, right? I mentioned earlier that idea that I'm not going to do today, but that I might look into, where I make a synth lead that plays sort of the melody that's implied by the drum rhythm and layers. That could be something to add as well. But yeah, I would at least like a ride cymbal and a couple other drum sounds to bring in and out of the arrangement. And you know, how do you know is if you feel like it needs it. And if you're not sure, you could go ahead and start arranging with what you've got, and then in the process of arranging, you might realize, oh, this section needs whatever, needs a tom, needs a fill, needs a crash cymbal, whatever. So the arrangement process will definitely illuminate and make it easier to realize what you need that you don't already have. Cool. Stereo Decor is saying, all sounds except the mic are flamming. That's exactly what I've noticed the last week. It doesn't sound like an acoustic feedback. It's loud. Man, see, thanks for saying that. I probably need to... I've got a digital mixer going in here, and it could be that there's a signal doubled. I will check that after we're done. Apologies for that. Hopefully it sounds okay, and you guys got the vibe of what was going on. Cool. Now, so... there's a lot. I'm seeing still a lot of new names in the chat. Thanks for everybody. Let's call out some more here. Jonathan Bremer, what's up? The Rumanks, Mar. Come back next time. Oh, Cosmic J is back. Great. Glad you're here. And yeah, you guys have had lots of good comments today. Thanks everybody for interacting and being a part of it, and some good suggestions as well. I got to fix my audio issue, man. This is the second time that this has happened, so I'm going to get on it. Thanks for being patient with that. And that'll be it for this week. Thanks a lot. See you next time.